Thanks for joining us on Talking Points at ISE 2026. I'm joined by Dave from Yorktel-Kinly. Welcome, Dave.
Thank you.
We are here to talk about standardisation and the reality of that. I feel the dream is that the New York office will be the same as the Tokyo office, will be the same as the London office. But I'm guessing doing that job day in, day out, the reality is somewhat different.
Yeah, it's kind of challenging really because whilst you can kind of standardise on the hardware now across locations, you can more or less get hardware, more or less the same across these locations. That's really not the crux of the challenge. The crux of the challenge is really getting that consistent user experience. Technology is one thing, hardware is one thing, but then when you layer that with the services, that's really where you have a successful outcome versus a perhaps not so successful outcome. So things like, providing the right level of service and support if users encounter issues or need help in a meeting room or a conference solution, then how do they obtain that support in a consistent way globally, regardless of the location, the region, the language, etc.
And how do you find dealing with kind of regional differences? Because that could be an issue, right? Because the New York office might love Zoom, but London loves Teams, or the London office loves doing lots of video meetings, and the New York office does them in person. How are you sensitive to those, but still provide a relatively standardized approach?
Yeah, what we want to make sure is that the experience is kind of agnostic. So the choice of the meeting platform, whether it be Teams, Zoom, WebEx, or whatever else, is really kind of transparent to the overall user experience. And that's what Yorktel-Kinly provides, is a service layer on top of that helps our users be able to establish their conferences, have their conferences, and be supported in a way that makes that completely transparent to the outcome of what they're trying to achieve for the meeting, up to and including when the meeting has taken place, what are the actions after the fact. We're dealing with a lot of AI capabilities these days, and how do you make sure that AI capability is also consistent across these platforms and technologies? It's rather complex, but that's where we layer on our services over the top of it to bring that complexity and make it simple.
Sure. Does it make it easier, the fact that you are a global organization, that you can provide uniformity of service because you are in different regions of the world rather than just based in the UK or the US?
Yeah, totally. You've got to have that. You've got to kind of think globally but act locally. So you need that local presence still, especially when you want to bring on-site field technicians to service the equipment physically, but then provide a service layer that is consistent across all regions.
Sure. How do you deal with, we talked about the regional differences earlier. Where is that drive coming from for, say we love BYOM or we love BYOD or we love touchscreen control or we want this kind of touch panel, or where does that come from, the client, or does that come from you, or is it a bit of both? Can you influence it in some way? Because I guess you'll know the problems better than they will. So I guess you have to be very sensitive, but try and nudge them in the right direction.
You're trying to accommodate for all different use cases. So, there are some customers that like to walk into a meeting room with no equipment whatsoever and be able to utilize, the conference room equipment. There are others that, are kind of scared of using that and they want to bring their own device, plug in a USB cable, and away they go. So we've got to be able to accommodate for all those different use cases. And the technology that we deploy gives capability of supporting both of that. You often see a lot of these rooms deployed where you have a dedicated codec in the room, but you can also bring in a laptop, plug in via USB, and use BYOD, BYOM if you wanted to, as an alternative to the dedicated in-room equipment.
I mean, is one of the keys to success that as a global organization, you have to have a global culture so that the advice you're giving in New York will be equivalent to New York and to London and Tokyo and Singapore, and because I guess that has to come from you guys as well, right? And if the offices behave differently, you're going to have a sort of muddled outcome.
Well, exactly. And the other thing to consider is that, a lot of these international companies now, they travel between their office locations and their regions. And what they want to ensure is that they've got consistency when they are scheduling a meeting room in New York, that they can go to London and do the same, without having to be retrained on what the processes are or the experience is going to be.
And how does that, you mentioned training there, how does that process work then between the different, is that rolled out electronically? Is that people in meetings? How do you make sure that everyone in all the different regions knows exactly what to do with the kit that you're putting in?
So part of our service offering post-deployment is we provide training and adoption services so that we can ensure that we help our customers train the existing employee base, but of course there's employee churn as well, so you need to be continually training as they bring on new employees. So we build out training platforms, e-learning platforms to help our customers build these platforms so there's continuous learning and education for how to use the technology.
Final question, Dave. Do you think the process of a global rollout is getting easier because of the technology, or as difficult as it ever was, or more difficult? Where are you on that kind of scale?
I think in some places it's becoming easier.
Yeah.
I think the technology is becoming more reliable and more standardized
Sure.
and more commoditized. But then, the complexities moved somewhere else. So,
So you solve one problem, another one
right,
appears.
exactly,
Right?
yeah.
Okay.
So, I think it's still as complex as it was before, but in a slightly different way.
That's the kind of perfect summation of the life of a system integrator,
Right.
I guess, right? You solve one problem, another
Exactly.
one reappears. Dave, many thanks for your time and your insights. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.